me welcome Jamie Richardson to the podium. Thanks.
It's really an honor to be here with everybody today, and what a great club you have. I mean, to know the Rotary Exchange program is going strong and to see the opportunity that provides for so many, and then to have that theme of service above self, but to hear how accountable you are to one another in terms of the impact you have. So really fun to be here for the exemplary service recognition. So congratulations to all the winners. And Teddy, it takes courage to toss out jokes like that. So I got a hamburger for you, buddy. 3 free. Now, hey, let's level the scales of justice. If you steal from me, you steal twice, because I'll be using some of those someday soon. But and just to be up front, there is a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow today, because you will each get your own 3 free hamburger coupon. We'll set them by the door so you can pick up one on the way out. And that's the great thing about being here at Rotary. It's the on your honor system. So if you're feeling really hungry, take 2, but just share it with someone along the way. But I realized in preparing and looking ahead to today, one of the great things about it is I don't always get to talk about philosophy and hamburgers at the same time. Now, this is the Rotary Club. The Columbus Club has been around 105 years. This is an erudite group of people. I think I can fuse those two, not confuse, but can fuse them together. And so to me, the quote that really best describes our journey as a family-owned business for White Castle actually comes from the philosopher Hegel. And what George Wilhelm Hegel once said is, "This we can assert absolutely. Nothing great in this world was ever accomplished without passion." And so I'm just going to take a few minutes to share with you the things we're passionate about at White Castle. And I'd say the first thing that we're most passionate about is our people. And that's something that we've been doing for a long while now. And that focus on people is something that started right in the very beginning, when we started in Wichita, Kansas. Here's an interesting background to that. When we started in Wichita, Kansas, our founder, Billy Ingram, was actually a realtor, and he made great friends with a person who was looking for a home. His name was Walt Anderson. Walt had a little hamburger stand. Billy was a realtor. They got together, and then Billy started putting the study to this whole hamburger stand idea, and he proposed that maybe they should go into business together. And that's where they first came up with the notion of 5-cent hamburgers. And the name White Castle, white was for cleanliness and purity, castle for permanence and strength. And they opened the first day. They almost ran out of hamburger that first day, and we've been going strong ever since. Now, the rest of the story, Paul Harvey's not with us anymore, but we can borrow that line, I think. The rest of the story is, guess where those two first met and where they forged their friendship? Rotary Club of Wichita, Kansas. So if it wasn't for Rotary, we might not be talking about White Castle right now. So believe me, we're very indebted to that. As I thought about that, I realized how much we have in common. That Rotary, as a club that's been around for over 100 years, White Castle is a family business for 96 years now, we take the longer view. We don't have to worry about what Wall Street says next week. We're privately held. We think that allows us to make better decisions, and that people matter, that it really is important to start at the base of it all, that we get to spend time together. We're granted this gift of time. Let's make the most of it. And that values count. They aren't just words that you scrawl on paper and put in a manila folder. They're values to be lived and brought to life every single day. And in those moments of truth where you have to ask a tough question, they're also the guide that helps you make the best decision. And last, that we have a chance to make a difference. So that's what we try to do in each of our neighborhoods, just as Rotary and other service clubs do in each of their neighborhoods and communities around the world. So wow, that's pretty cool. We've got a lot in common. I mentioned in the beginning and how that all started. That's the first castle in Wichita. And it was really interesting because at the time, it wasn't too long after a book had come out called The Jungle. And Upton Sinclair had done an expose on the meatpacking industry in Chicago. So self-respecting families did not feed hamburger to the kids. That was fair food. That was something that was, beyond the reaches of good taste. But what Billy and Walt decided from the very beginning was a total commitment to quality. So it's always been 100% beef, steam grilled on a bed of onions, served on a bakery fresh bun with one perfect pickle. And that notion of quality and commitment to quality is something that was part of who we are today from the very beginning. So, but at the time, they really had to overcome some negative attitudes about the quality of the food. And they did that through being transparent and being really focused on the highest standards. So that was part of the fun. I mentioned we're passionate about many things. really our passion for people is the one I think that has shaped everything we've done from the very beginning. So we started offering a health insurance program, if you can believe this, in 1924. We offer retirement benefits at the end of the 1920s and maintain all of that to this day. So White Castle has 384 restaurants. We're in 12 states. We have 10,600 team members. And the best thing is, of those 10,600 team members, more than 1 in 4 has been at White Castle 10 years or more. So in an industry where there's rapid turn, we're incredibly fortunate that we get the chance to work with dedicated and loyal people who maybe start off as a summer job where they're trying to raise money to pay car insurance for that first car that they just bought with mom and dad's help. Or maybe it's someone who's looking for a little bit of extra work part-time. So often that early encounter leads to a love affair in terms of what they encounter at the castle, and they decide to stay. So we're really, really fortunate in that regard. In fact, of the top 450 restaurant operations people in White Castle, that's our regional directors, our district supervisors, and our restaurant general managers. Of those 450, 442 of those individuals started behind the counter at a White Castle in an hourly role, usually when they were 16 or 17 years old. Hey, we love the 8 who didn't. They're cool too. But it's pretty neat that we've been able to have that opportunity to promote from within and grow as a family. So it's part of who we are and something we have a lot of fun with. We also have a passion for sharing our story. And as a family-owned business, I'd say over the years we've been a bit intrinsically shy. But I think what we started to discover is it's okay for us to tell the rest of the world about this mystique that surrounds the castle, the extreme lengths people will go to satisfy their cravings. So not too long ago, well, actually, I guess it's been a few years now, but all out of nowhere, we got a phone call from someone in Hollywood. Literally had to check my calendar to make sure it wasn't an April Fool's Day prank. Turns out it was March 31st, so I knew that it wasn't a joke, but it was someone from Hollywood saying, there's this film about 2 likable underdogs who spend a night of misadventure trying to get to White Castle. Oh, that sounds pretty good. And so we got the script. They didn't mention to us it was rated R for raunchy, but we read the script, and then there was some good debate and discussion, and the decision was made. We might want to do this, but we better check this out with our CEO, Bill Ingram. I'll never forget, I was standing outside the hallway. My heart was pounding kind of fast. I don't know if I'd ever been in Bill's office before. And so I walked in. I had it all mapped out in my mind how I was going to talk about brand equity and sharing our story and all these things, and I just blurted out because I panicked. It's rated R. It's got sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But other than that, it's a love letter to White Castle. And he didn't even know what I was talking about. I explained it was a movie, and then he got super quiet. I thought, uh-oh. And I thought he really made a big mistake. And then he just asked, well, does it make fun of our team members? I thought about it and said, no, actually, it's very complimentary of our team members. He said, oh, I'm fine with it then if you are. So that was the lengthy approval process that led to the creation of Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, which did not win the Academy Award it so richly deserved, but maybe someday. But it did introduce us to a whole generation, a whole new generation of cravers. And to this day, a lot of our Gen Z and millennial fans talk about the film and how it inspired them to try White Castle for the first time. We also have what I'd call a passion for celebrating the good. So we get to have a lot of fun. We have a 25-year club where once you've been at White Castle for 25 years of continuous service, you're invited into Columbus to come and visit. And for many people who are inducted into the 25-year club, it's the first opportunity they've had to fly on an airplane. They're wined and dined and driven around in limousines for the week. They're given a gold watch. And they really just, I think, are affirmed in terms of the commitment they've made to be part of something that helps us make a difference in our neighborhood. So we get to have a lot of fun along the way in that regard. When our CEO, Bill Ingram, retired from his role as CEO a couple of years ago to become our chairman of the board, and his daughter, Lisa, became our new CEO, that was a time of transition. But as a family-owned business, we took about 10 years to work through that. And so when it did happen, everybody knew what the plan was going to be. The family was unified, not driven apart by any of it. And the cousins who might have been interested in the role at one point but decided Lisa was best for the job felt great about the process that led us to that. So we wanted to celebrate those things. And we found that the more we're transparent, the more we share, the more we can celebrate and feel great about it. So we did surprise Bill. This was we did our own version of This Is Your Life and had everybody from high school teachers to old friends show up from backstage. So get to have a little fun along the way that way too. On the screen now is the most famous person in the history of White Castle, and that's Elaine Masita, who is shown receiving her 25-year gold watch, her 50-year service pin, and then her 67-year service pin, which is what she received before she retired. So when Elaine retired a few years back, the board of directors did something they've never done. Well, Bill Ingram did something he's never done. He let her keep her security pass. Figured she was low risk. So Elaine can come and go whenever she likes. She lives in Upper Arlington, and so she comes by. What the board of directors did is they declared Elaine's hire date of June 8th as Elaine Masita Day. So now, every year on June 8th, we honor those individuals who have 15 years of service. And given Elaine 67 years of service, they get a special pin that says 52 years to go. And often Elaine will come back to greet them. And it's just a lot of fun and a good way to celebrate. So at the end of the day, we think it's important to have fun. We're in the hamburger business, it's not earth-shattering. We also really have a passion for making memorable moments. And a few years back, we realized, we get all these stories that people send to us about their White Castle experiences. We should have a Hall of Fame. So we just, at the last second, put it on a hamburger sack and said, send us your story. You could be a Hall of Famer. And we thought we might get, 50 to 100 entries. The first year, 1,876 entries. And people weren't just sending in little paragraphs. They were sending in video clips and all kinds of great entries and about how we were there for their wedding reception. Heck, we didn't even know we were in the catering business. But it was really been fun over the years to collect all those stories. Each year, the best 10 stories or so are selected, and we bring those individuals in from all over the country. They come in as absolute strangers, and they have the opportunity to leave as best of friends. And it's really kind of a neat, for the home office where we gather to induct the new inductees, these individuals get up and share their stories about what it is about White Castle and how they made it to the Hall of Fame. Now, along the way, we've been able to have some fun with that. This is Alice Cooper, recent inductee. Who knew, right? But he's an incredibly bright and fun and nice person. So he actually came to our home office, and instead of doing the show that's on PBS Inside the Actors Studio, we took some creative license and did our version, Inside the Cravers Studio. And for those who've watched the real show, at the end they ask, if heaven exists, what do you hope to hear when you reach the pearly gates? So we asked Alice the same question, said, if White Castle exists in heaven, what do you hope to hear when you get to the drive-thru? And he didn't miss a beat. He said, can I have Zantac with that? He's got a good sense of humor and a really, really nice man. We have a passion for hot and tasty food. At the base of it all, that's what we do best, is we have distinctive taste. I mentioned earlier that hamburger recipe that's been the same since 1921, but increasingly we're comfortable with expanding that and trying new things. So at our place, you can get a sack of 10. You can get a Crave case with 30 sandwiches. For those who are traveling, by the way, it fits in an overhead bin. The Crave crate holds 100. And since we're here among friends, I'll share my secret plan. I want us to do a Crave pallet. It only holds 6,782 burgers, but we're working on it, so maybe someday. One of the fun things that happen along the way is we also have a great presence in the grocery stores. We're in all 50 states with our grocery product, and that's grown tremendously over the years. Most recently, we opened a new frozen food plant in Vandalia. So we make 6 packs of sandwiches, and then we ship those to grocery stores all over the country, and Walmart and Meijer's, and that part of our business has really been exceedingly strong as it's allowed us to be in different states where we don't have restaurants, and as well as in the states where we do. So, but customers love that, and that's been really a fun part of our business. I know that Rotarians really appreciate that entrepreneurial spirit and how that makes a difference in each of our communities. This is a great example of Moxie. Bill Ingram, who was CEO and president for many years, had this idea based on going out to the restaurants, and customers would come up and say, hey, guess what I do? I buy a 10-sack, I put it in my freezer, then I heat them up in this new thing I have called the microwave oven. And so he started to think about it, and so he went to some big manufacturers of food and said, hey, we've got this great name. You have manufacturing know-how. How about we license our name to you, and you can make these for the grocery store? To a person he talked to, every single one of them said, that's nice, it will never work. And thank goodness he didn't take no for an answer. He came back and very quietly put a team together, and that team came up with the idea of how we would do it ourselves. One of the best decisions we've ever made as a business, and it's really been vital to our ongoing growth and opportunity. So it's kind of a neat example of not giving up in the face of the expert saying it's not a good idea. we've got a passion for where we started. We love our history, but we're not married to the past. Our thought is the history helps shape us, but we know that those lessons from the past need to be applied in modern ways. And for us, it's definitely a passion for where we started and who the people are that have given us this opportunity. As much as that, it's a passion for what's next. And we're trying more things than ever. And we find that we've become more comfortable with, hey, if it's not perfect, that's okay. We'll keep working at it. This gentleman that's down in the right-hand corner of the screen as you look at it, in kind of the cartoon image, that's Telfar Clemens, who's an up-and-coming designer we became friends with 2 years ago. And so he's using White Castle as the place for his high-fashion after parties. So it's kind of a little bit of a joke, like the limousine through the drive-thru, but we'll have like Vogue magazine and all these other places hanging out in a White Castle basement taking pictures like it's something like a Paris runway show. And he was just named a week ago to be one of Vogue magazine's 10 top up-and-coming fashion designers. And we really feel like we have a nice friendship with this person who's from an entirely different world, but helps share our story in another way. Down at 2nd and High in the Short North, we've had a castle there since 1968. We're currently working on that, and it's going to be the castle of the future today. So we hope to open sometime in first quarter next year, and come on by when we do, because it's going to be different than any other castle experience you've ever had. We think it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't give away all the fun things we're working on, but that's the teaser campaign, and that's going to be part of a building that actually has apartments and condominiums and other things at the heart of the Short North. So still there like we've always been, but just in a new form. There was mention about the efforts we're making over at our home office at 555 West Goodale, and that's something we're in continuing discussions with the state of Ohio on. Our first hope is that that will be where our new home is on that property, as we take and really let that be the smile that greets you as you come to downtown. So I can't say too much because we're still in discussions and working out details, but we're very encouraged by the progress that's been made. We're very encouraged by the great work and how the city of Columbus has been so supportive. So that's been really, really powerful and helped us along the way. Beyond that, we have lots of new menu items. We've got a castle now in Las Vegas as well that opened. So it's our one castle west of the Mississippi River. We went out for what we thought was the ribbon cutting, a few of us, and that was fun till they put us on the grill. I'm pretty slow. It was like 2 in the morning and someone ordered 67 double cheeseburgers with no onion. That's hard. But the lines were 4 hours long, but it's continued to go really, really well out there. And it seems that everyone who comes to town wants to get to that castle. That's a look at the line a few hours before we even open the doors. So we've had some fun with that. That's Lisa Ingram, our CEO, at about 3 in the morning when the day was done, and they were still going strong. And we realized we got to get up tomorrow too, so we called it a night. But I just love that picture because it's like, wow, it was like a dream. But it was a good dream. I mean, people were really busy, but it was a lot of fun. I'll close out with just a few other points and then open up for questions. We have a passion like you do for making a difference. We think it's so important that we really invest wisely, that we give back to community. So we're very involved through corporate contributions and also the Ingram White Castle Foundation. But our watch phrase, our way of looking at who do we contribute to, where do we partner, is what we call Castle Shares, feeding hunger, hopes, and dreams. That's just something we've really come to believe in. We have an Ingram White Castle Foundation scholarship program. This is for the sons and daughters of our team members and our team members. Over the years, we've given away over $2 million into the scholarship program. We have about 25 Ingram White Castle scholars a year. And for many of these young people, it's the difference between being able to go to school or not. And so we feel it's the right investment to make, and that we get to share back with the people who make it all possible. A fun little story. A while back, we met an incredible person. Her name was Laura Slatkin. She's involved in supporting Autism Speaks. We are as well. And so we were at a dinner with Laura. Her nickname is the Queen of Home Fragrance because she's designed scents for Elton John, Vera Wang, the British royal family, Martha Stewart. So we knew this, and I was sitting by her at dinner, and I said, it would be really funny if there's a White Castle hamburger scented candle. And I thought, uh-oh, because, she's up there. She's a Manhattan socialite. And she said, that was about all she said. And I thought, I probably shouldn't have said that. She might have been offended. 3 weeks later, I kid you not, in the mail, I got a package. And the mailroom said, we have no idea what this is, but it's really bubble wrapped. I open it up. It was a mason jar with wax in it, and it smelled like a White Castle. Like, what is this? And there was a little Post-it note that said, loved your idea. The beef is perfect. The pickle's almost there, and the bun's a little light. I'll get it on try two. XO Laura. And that was the start of a beautiful friendship. So that's how the White Castle Hamburger Scented Candle came to be. So far, we've raised $300,000 for Autism Speaks with the candle. So it's been a really cool way to give back. Finally, passion for family. As a family-owned business, we just know how important it is. It's not just the family that happens to be inherited from Billy Ingram. Billy and Ingram and Walt remained friends all their lives. At an early point, I should have mentioned in the 1930s, Walt wanted to divest of White Castle, and he put all of his money into another business that was doing pretty well in Wichita, the aviation industry, and continued to do well the rest of his life. That's when Billy moved the business up to Columbus. They remained friends forever. But so the family today are the descendants of Billy Ingram, but family to us aren't those direct descendants of Billy. It's the 10,600 people who call White Castle home, and that's what we try to live up to every day. So we call it a heart for hospitality. It's something we think differentiates us in the restaurant world, and that restaurants do that every day anyway. We're proud to be part of all that. And as our friends, the Beatles, said, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. So that's at Castle at the end of the rainbow. I'll close out by saying, you might have heard mentioned that I live up in Mount Vernon. That's a little bit of a hike. And a while back, I thought, wow, 5 kids, we got to get those kids to different places. I'm on the road a lot. If I'm going to get a van, which I thought was the right thing to do, I better make sure that I can find it in a parking lot, and if I'm stuck in traffic, maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to sell a hamburger or two. So that's me with my new vehicle. And 4 out of 5 kids love it. The 15-year-old daughter is not quite sold. Dad, you can drop me off here. I'm fine.
What would it do to your business or the industry if certain changes were forced through on minimum wage?
For us, it's not about politics, it's about people. And what we know is that within our business model, we want to pay and reward every person as much as we possibly can. So that's our starting point. What we find is that when things happen by fiat, when it's a mandate, it makes it really difficult because every market's different. Every city's a little bit different. So, for instance, right now in New York, the state has approved a $15 minimum wage. Originally, it was just for fast food. Now it's gone statewide, and it is for everybody. But to get to that means that to balance it all out, margins run about 1.5% to 3% for most restaurants. Are pretty tight. To make that work, the hard part is you can only raise prices so high because people always have other opportunities to go places. What we've found overall is it hurts employment, especially in the youth market, where you want to have more kids have the chance for more opportunity. So our thought is to be constructive, to have good dialogue and discussion, to share the real facts, be transparent, and hopefully have that be part of the discussion set that guides the debate. But thank you for the question. That's our approach. Yeah. The steel fabricating plant, that started in 1934 at a time when we were using the fabricating plant to build the restaurants. And 2 years ago, we made a tough decision, an important one, to sell that division. We realized over the years that we were really good at running restaurants and really good at making food, but we weren't as good in terms of our manufacturing prowess, and it was pretty small. What we did do, the 38 people who were employed by that division, almost all of them went on to work for the buyer who bought it. Those who didn't, we had a few who were closer to retirement, so they stuck around for 1.5 years, 2 years, and had things that we really benefited from their efforts. And so we feel we did it the right way, and we communicated along the way. But it was a tough decision, probably the right decision. Small amount of sales volume, and candidly, the losses were growing bigger each year, so did it for the future sustainability. Yeah. Ooh, great question. Some companies like Uber and Amazon are increasingly involved in home delivery. Is White Castle considering that direction? I think what we're finding is you have to be open to everything because things change really fast. And so we're experimenting. The big thing I'd say we've learned in the past 5 years is it's okay if something doesn't work out. We're a place where people come in and make it a career, which is really awesome. We want to continue that. As a result, we have long memory, so it wouldn't have been uncommon 5 or 6 years ago to have someone come up with an idea, and then everyone around the table would say, yeah, we tried that. And then you find out, well, yeah, but that was 1977. Things have changed now. We've got remote controls. So we are experimenting with that with different partners in different parts of the country. We have a test we're doing in New York right now. Our thought is that retail traffic patterns might be changing, and if they are, we want to be ahead of it, not behind it. Great question, thank you.
What process do you go through determining whether you'd expand into other locales, other states, etc.?
That's a great question. What process do we use to decide if we're going to expand into other states or not? And I'll tell you, it's very interesting because we, the past several years, have put a lot of that investment into replacing old buildings and refurbishing, making sure we're current and inviting in our current buildings. More of the capital expenditure has actually gone towards the frozen food side of the business because we're able to be in more states and more places, and candidly, the returns are a little bit stronger. When we do look at the process, we look at the trade area. We tend to go and add castles in existing markets versus trying to go into new markets. But, we're even challenging that, saying, it's a big country. We're only in 12 states, so maybe we should be in more states. So we haven't decided the right path forward, but we're continuing to look at it. So thanks for the question. Yeah.
Are you able to share with us an update on the plans for your property where your corporate headquarters is located and what you're doing with that?
It's a good question. If the question was, am I able to share plans for what's going on at 555 West Goodale where our home office is? I'm not able to share a lot right now just because there are different conversations going on. It's really important I don't get ahead of those. But what I can share is that we're really encouraged that our first hope would be to stay here at that location and to develop that property in a way that's suitable for the good of all of Columbus. We see that as a key location because, especially with all the great work that's happened at Grandview Yards, and really genuinely hope that it's the smile that greets you when you make your way downtown. So, but stay tuned. We're getting close on lots of things and very hopeful, but I just don't want to overstep and get ahead of myself. Thank you. A general manager in St. Louis thought it would be a neat idea to have fine dining at White Castle and to take reservations. So she put out white tablecloths and had candles, and I'll tell you what, now we're doing it at 385 restaurants a year. This year on Valentine's Day, we had 26,000 reservations. They closed out around February 3rd or 4th, so if you're thinking about next year, it's never too early to get your name in. And people have the best time. It's become a great tradition, and people show up with cellos and play in the lobby, or play in the dining room, and it's really become just a great and fun tradition. So if you really want fine dining, get yourself to a castle this Valentine's Day. Yeah, your significant other will thank you. Yeah, Mike.
You've shared over the years, or I've shared with you funny funeral stories, processions coming through. Can you share other, maybe 2 or 3 of your favorite Craver Hall of Fame stories?
Oh, that's good. Mike's been a friend for years and years through Conway Family Business Center. Thanks for all you do for the community. It's a big deal. He's there for all of us when we need him the most. And but it's probably a fitting story, and not just to keep it in funeral land or anything, but it did prompt a memory that's a recent one of a woman who, and this to me was really a tough and touching story, but really beautiful and showed the commitment that people make when White Castle is part of their lives. So there were 2 sisters, Mel and Stacy, and unfortunately, Mel was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And so the outlook wasn't good from the very beginning, but she was a fighter and she was working through it. So she's from New Jersey and she was in the hospital there. And so she was struggling and working her way through it. And whenever they got a good report or a bad report, and she was not supposed to leave the hospital grounds. I mean, she was maybe allowed in the reception area. Her sister would dress her up in like other clothes, and they'd sneak out and they'd go to the White Castle and hang out at the White Castle, and they'd come back. And they had that special relationship like many of us probably have with siblings or close friends, where they just were, they really deeply loved one another. Unfortunately, Mel passed away. Her dying wish was that her sister do something fun and memorable. So we get this call out of nowhere. Would we allow this 3D printing company to make a White Castle urn that looked like a White Castle? And when we heard the story, it was so touching, we said absolutely yes. We made a nice contribution to the local chapter of the American Cancer Society, and then we inducted Stacy and Mel into the White Castle Cravers Hall of Fame, and and they just laughed and had a great time with all of it, but it was a way to keep that memory alive. And we even joked, hey, we hear about cradle to grave, this is cradle to crave, but Mike, you and I need to talk about this urn thing later. We got maybe a whole new business line together. So, but it looks like we're right at the time. Is there one last question? We'll wrap it up. It's been an honor to be here. Thank you, my friends, and crave on.
Yeah, thank you. Really good. I'm going to put these by the door.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.